In his new book, Reckless Eyeballing, Ishmael Reed's hero shaves the heads of prominent black feminists. These black feminist writers are collaborating with the enemies of black people by perpetuating ugly stereotypes about black men, the hero says. He retaliates by shaving their heads, just as the resistance did to prostitutes who collaborated with the Nazis in France during World War II. In real life, has the black man become the victim of black feminist writers? I've asked myself another question, and you might want to share it. Does the castration of the black male image sell better to white producers and publishers? These are provocative questions. I'm Tony Brown. When we come back, we will discuss, do black feminist writers victimize black men? Ishmael Reed is the author of this new book called Reckless Eyeballing. He feels that some black feminist writers, by projecting negative black male stereotypes in their work, are taking part in a conspiracy to blame black men for male chauvinism. One reviewer calls him, quote, the most revolutionary black novelist who has appeared in print thus far, end of quote. But Barbara Smith, a leading feminist writer, calls him a, quote, notorious misogynist, end of quote. Her writings include, all the women are white, all the blacks are men, but some of us are brave. And another book is Homegirls. Welcome to the program. Ms. Smith, would you define for me misogynist? I must admit, when I read your book, I had to go to the dictionary. Now, you did say that Mr. Reed was a misogynist writer.
Well, this is not the dictionary definition. This is my definition from experience. It's basically a man who doesn't like women, or at least treats women as if he doesn't like them.
Mr. Reed?
Yeah, I don't think anything is served by name-calling. First of all, I want to say that the hero of the book, Ian Ball, shaves both the heads of black women and white women. So he's a Democrat in that respect. I don't advocate this. And this fictional hero gets his due in the book if you read the book. As far as being a woman hater, I think there's as much misandry, which is a hatred of men, going around in the world today as there is misogyny. So I think they're, both both groups are not exempt from having hostile ideas about one another.
All right, let's move to your new book, Reckless Eyeballing. Your hero is a person who is mysterious. I think he's called the Phantom.
The Flower Phantom.
The Flower Phantom.
He leaves a chrysanthemum with his victims. And so in this book, women get off better than, say, black males get off in the books of feminists that I can name, where in one book I can name, I don't want to deal in personalities, a black male is mutilated sexually. In another book, a very famous novel, a black man's mother burns him up. There's no motive for this. And in another book, I can name cruel things happen to black men. In this book, all the violence actually happens to the men. One is murdered, one goes crazy. So I try to be fair in the book, so I don't see how anybody can single this book out and say it's a misogynistic book. But anybody who wears a pair of pants these days, according to people like Barbara Smith, is misogynist.
Barbara, your point of view is a feminist point of view. You also make the distinction in one of your books, and I read, that there's a distinction between fighting institutionalized chauvinism and individual hatred of men.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it's very important to make that distinction. What I'm trying to get at, and what other serious black women who are political and who call themselves feminists, is just to point to the great inequalities in the society based upon sex and sexual identity. But that doesn't mean that we hate men. I've spent very little of my writing career writing hateful things about men. I've written some very positive things about myself as a black woman and other black women.
Well, in your introduction to Homegirls, you seem to take the position that all the evil in the world comes from men, and women get off. The women are idealized, and they're brave, and they're strong.
It's not true.
Just like that movie, The Color Purple.
It's not just like the movie, The Color Purple.
Melodrama where all the women are good and all the men are bad.
But Ms. Smith,
way of looking at
Ms. Smith, I also read in your book you were critical of one aspect of The Color Purple. You said that no reviewer had really told the story, had never really identified what The Color Purple was about. What did you mean by that?
Well, I would just like to go back to the comment that was just interjected about, black women being idealized. I think if you read the introduction to Homegirls, which is subtitled A Black Feminist Anthology, carefully, you'll see that I'm opposed to all oppression. So I'm opposed to imperialism. I'm opposed to class oppression. Of course, I'm opposed to racism. I have never, like some white feminists, said that men were the root of all evil, and have even been criticized in the context of the women's movement because I refuse to take that stance.
I think you have intellectual courage to point out the lesbian propaganda features of The Color Purple. I admire you for that, but I do feel that there's a strident attack on black men running throughout your book.
There's a difference between attacking oppression and attacking black men.
Ms. Smith, are you saying that there is a, what did you say she said about
She said it was a lesbian movie, which is what some of us said. I said, and I couldn't get away with saying
Is that what you're saying, Ms.
Come
Smith?
down on me, but it's a good thing you said.
Well, I would like to make a distinction as a literary critic and a serious writer between the movie and the book. I mean, the movie, as far as I'm concerned, is a travesty, and the book is a work of art. It's a work of art. And the thing is that the difference between those two entities is very great. I really love the book. It has its problems, like anything done by fallible humans. But the thing is, the movie, I think what we have to look at is...
What makes the book better than the movie?
Well, the book
from a literary point of view.
Well, the book is like, it's well-rounded, it's serious, it has depth, it has any number of nuances. It's very philosophical and very theological, too. Those conversations about what is God, who is he a white man, is it a field of flowers? Those are very deep discussions. And those are discussions that have plagued and, interested the black community for many years. She capsulizes it in authentic black language in the voices of people who are not supposed to be even able to articulate a philosophical thought. And that's, very important. I think the thing to talk about when we're talking about the movie is who produced it. The executive producer of the movie is a black man, Quincy Jones, and the director of the movie is a white man, Steven Spielberg. And all the blame goes on to the author who sold her rights.
That was their choice. They had a meeting, and this brings up conspiratorial aspects. According to Ms. Magazine, which is kind of pushing all this stuff, Gloria Steinem, who has become some kind of modern-day daughter of Dracula, getting victim after victim to carry out her orders. According to Ms. Magazine, they all met, and they decided to take this movie, this property to Hollywood, and they gave it to the biggest purveyor of male chauvinism in Hollywood, Steven Spielberg. Now, I thought they had multicultural awareness. I see some of them lending their names to causes like El Salvador and all that, but the Asian Americans single out Steven Spielberg as a racist in 1984 because of Indiana Jones, who goes around the world punishing third world people and slapping women left and right. There's no black male who's as big a chauvinist as Indiana Jones. Yet they took this property to him, and he made the movie. And what did they expect? I see Steven Spielberg taking all the blame for this, but certainly they had a hand in.
Well, I assure you, I had nothing to do with who produced the movie. I mean, they didn't call me.
But how can you take an act, let's say, as innocent as feminists taking a script to a producer? How do you associate that with a conspiracy?
Well, it's not innocent in the sense that they lambast the patriarchy and all the buzzwords, and yet they take the movie to a man and didn't even insist that a woman direct this movie or produce this movie.
Maybe they were being democratic.
Mm-hmm.
Is it important that we have a promotion of the heterosexual family unit as we have traditionally been concerned?
You said, is it important that
Is it important in terms of literature, as far as black people is concerned, that we promote heterosexual relationships, therefore heterosexual family units?
I don't see that as a priority. What I see as a priority is like using literature to capture the black experience and all of its diversity and to try to tell the truth.
What is the role of the black lesbian in terms of the philosophy or the political direction of the black community?
Well, I think one of the things that the movie did, and that's probably most black people's only exposure, to a lesbian depiction, either in film or literature, that is through either the film or the book of The Color Purple. What the book did was to show that black lesbians, as had black gay men, have always been a part of the black community. And in that situation that she created were really very integral parts. They were not ostracized, they were not hated. They just continued to, function as important members of that community.
The lesbian relationship wasn't ostracized, but the heterosexual relationships were ostracized.
I'm not sure about that. Mr. at the end of the book, which is really, I think, very important, and again, something that most critics do not look at the end end of the book, Mr. has been transformed, as have most of the other men in the book. They get along very well with each other. Celie says he's not Suge, but he begins to be somebody I can talk to. And they sit on the porch and they talk and do whatever, you know, they do. They become like family members. It's a very family book, a very familial book.
I think the problem with the book is that you go for the first section of the book, lambasting heterosexual relationships. You know, men are not good lovers. I think that's probably the most positive thing about the book is that in the movie that it shows black men as bad lovers. Maybe it'll take some of the pressure off of black men in everyday life. But I kept reading this stuff about having sex with a man is like going to the toilet and all these negative things. And I said, well, I want to see what the substitute. What are you going to replace this with? And when we get to the lesbian relationship, we don't get any explicit descriptions of the lovemaking. We get a travelogue. She jumps to Africa, which I think is the biggest flaw in the book.
Yeah, a lot of people have pointed that out.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell me, Mr. Reed, you have made a number of allegations in your writing that the stereotype of the black male is being consciously manipulated on Broadway and in publishing houses and in literary circles. Now, can you explain that, please?
Well, I think that there are a lot of misogynistic impulses among black men. I don't want to.
Could you help the viewers understand these big words?
Well, I think black men, a lot of black men don't treat women very well, and I've had experience in that myself. I'm trying to change. We all have to change, and I think what the feminist movement has contributed is that they show that while black men were fighting for their liberation in the 1960s, they were oppressing other people. So I think that's a positive point they've made. What I think is that there's enough misogyny to go around. For example, before I left Oakland, I went to the library, so nobody will think I'm indulging in rhetoric. And I looked up an article that was published in the New York Times, December 6th, 1982. I want to make that so people won't say that this is a myth or I'm making this up. It says that there's a big problem of wife beating in Jewish American families, both in Orthodox and Reform. I read Italian American women. They say they have a difficult time with their men. There's a book called The Dream Book by Italian American writers, women writers. Irish American women say the same thing. But it seems that black men are being chosen to take all this heat. So I think there's. Can I finish? I think there's enough misogyny to go around. Now, I went to a forum in Berkeley on The Color Purple, and there are people from all nationalities there, women from all nationalities, Chinese American women. I said, don't you have any problems in your, with Chinese American men? Do they all change diapers and do dishes? I mean, are they all feminists? And it just seems black men are being singled out, as other social, economic, and political movements in the past have singled black men out as scapegoats for their failures. Like in the 19th century, was a labor movement. The Knights of Labor went out massacring black men who tried to form unions. So I think this is just the latest in a number of movements to use a black man as a scapegoat. When I saw The Color Purple advertised as, come join the celebration, I thought I was being invited to a lynching. And I was, black men were lynched. So I think that black men have problems, Italian American men have problems, Jewish American men have problems. So I wonder why Gloria Steinem doesn't point that out. Why Gloria Steinem, for example, doesn't talk about the oppression of Jewish American men upon Jewish American women. Why don't Kathleen Kennedy, who took the book to Hollywood, talk about the oppression of Irish American men upon Irish American women? So I think there's enough to spread. I think we're being used as scapegoat. And you go internationally, you go to places where no black men are. I was in Berlin, for example, very few black men there. All the feminists there are all upset about The Color Purple and single out black American men as, being the epitome of racism. I received a paper. I was referee for a dissertation by a woman in India. Now, there ain't no black men, in India, all the way over there. And she's saying that Alice Walker's correct and black American men are this and that. So I think that maybe some of this heat could be taken off of us. And we will try to reform, but we're not the only ones who are male chauvinists.
And I think that what you were seeing at that forum in Oakland, where you said Chinese American women were coming, etc., there's solidarity amongst women of color, both in this country and internationally.
Yes. True.
Well, I mean, were you there?
I was there.
No, what I'm saying is, have you been where I have been?
I went to the Women's Empowerment Conference. I was one of the few men there.
What did you say?
Women's Empowerment Conference. And they talked about all the problems they're having. The straight women hate the gay people, the gay women. The black women hate the white women. As a matter of fact, I read Off Our Backs, the publication, and it said the white women have to call up these black meetings before they even go. They have to call up black feminists and say, it's okay for me to attend this meeting. There's so much hostility between the two. The gay men don't like the feminists because they stand on pornography. So there's so much division in this movement. The way to galvanize the movement, I guess, has been the solution is to choose black men as scapegoats, and they all agree on that, and that brings them together.
I just wanted to make a comment on your experience in your travels around the world and the repercussions of movies such as The Color Purple, books that reflect antagonism, I guess, among black men and black women. We are the ones in control of our destiny, and we are the ones in control of how others view us and how we view ourselves. And I think that if literary writers and if producers and critics were to concentrate more on the positive things, and I'm purely idealistic and optimistic in this opinion, but I think that we do have some beautiful love stories and fantastic relationships amongst black people. And if we can identify those through writings and through documentaries, then we can begin to see that positive imagery evolve that we all know exist.
I wonder what people were saying, and some of you probably remember what people were saying when Native Son came out in the 1940s. That was a book by a famous black male writer, Richard Wright, in which two women are murdered, a white woman and a black woman. But as far as I know, he was never drummed out of the fraternity of black male writers for writing a book about a black man murdering women. Do you see the analogy that I'm making?
Well, the movie is being remade now.
Well, it's being remade.
But what I'm saying, if a black woman dares to write about what's actually happening, because incest is happening, rape is happening, battering is happening, and murder is happening. It didn't start happening just this minute. We get chastised.
I looked at the statistics on that before I left home on this, because I was very interested in this, and I went to the library, and I looked up the FBI statistics, which were published in July 1985, and it said that 80% of the sex offenders in this country are white men. Why don't they make movies about that?
I think this is a great subject for a movie. I think that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. So, I have no problems with that.
I think the propaganda against black men being promoted by Ms. Magazine is a capitalistic magazine every time.
It is. It's a bourgeois, middle-of-the-road magazine.
I call it capitalistic.
Sure,
if you look at that, if you look at their propaganda, you look at The Color Purple, you would think that incest and the only people committing incest and committing rape are black men. This is not true.
I think the thing that upsets people is that in the novel she portrayed it in such a compelling, and heartfelt way that people can't turn away from it. She wasn't just giving us statistics; she was giving how it really happens, and it's happening up in Harlem
I don't know
today
where she got this,
too.
I don't know where she got the statistics in 1909. I don't know if she did her research or homework on that. But I think the point about that book is that there's some hatred in here. Now, Alice Walker said...
I didn't write the book,
Just hold on a second. She said that in the... you quote her, though. You quote,
I think she's a really good writer.
You quote remarks that she made about me that were wrong, that were incorrect.
They were wrong?
Yes.
Are you saying...
I never said that if I was a black lesbian, I would sell more books. Now, if you go back to American Book Review where that interview was published, you would see that I didn't say that. But she said in the New York Times Magazine section, which is one of these liberal do-gooder, meddler publications run by a neoconservative, and they cited her as telling the black woman's story. In other words, this woman speaks for all black women. A lot of black feminists I know objected to that. She said that black men are evil.
Who said that?
Alice Walker said black men are evil. She said they're more evil than white men because white men are aware of their evil. I wish she'd go down to Washington and tell some of those people down there that. So I think this is a position I never take, and yet I'm called a misogynist. What do you call her?
Sister.
It's a double standard.
I understand that quite a few people focused on the blackness of the movie. For me personally, I'm probably in the minority, a very gross, small minority. But when I saw that movie, I looked at it as representing what all men did back then, whether they were black or white. I grew up in an integrated society. I have had problems personally and professionally on jobs with white men as well as black men. In addition to that, when I saw the movie, I didn't concentrate on the anger. The fellow I went to see it with, I reached over, kissed him on the cheek, and was holding his hand and all this stuff, because what I saw in the movie was a man, was very pressured by his past, and he was under a lot of stress. So I saw it as, he's got to perform, he's got to do this. I looked at the pressure, and I looked at what one of my students that I was teaching at the time was talking about, misguided love, and I was not looking at race so much as, so this is what my grandmother was trying to tell me. This is what she was telling me about women and men and the pressures and why you can't trust a man and why you can't do this and can't do that. But I looked at it the same as you say, if we are going to find out about each other, we have got to tell the truth. You can't keep this stuff in the closet anymore. Let's bring it out, fight it out, make up, and go on and get things together.
Well, yeah, I think we're all wondering if that's all truth. I think everybody's saying some black men did that, but I think for us to accept that as the truth about black men is as dangerous as if we accepted a statement that was true of all Jewish men or all Italian men.
That's the point, Tony.
But we have movies on black men once every 50 years. And we don't have one to go across the street next week and see in which we're decent. That's the problem.
Well, one of the people who began all this black male hatred, which has become a growth industry, incidentally, that should be something on Wall Street for it, was Susan Brownmiller, who in her book Against Our Will said that all black men are rapists, or all black men support rape or recommend rape, and that was the book of the year in Time magazine. And the only feminist to reply to her these racist charges was Angela Davis.
You know, I would like to ask this question. Have we got to the point where we can see, not that feminism is a trap for black people, but isn't it sort of pulling us apart? I mean, my grandmother got down with my grandfather, and my father got down with my mother to produce a black family. And that's how we basically got here. Isn't feminism really about the spoiled white women in Scarsdale? Is it really about black folks who have really been hustling to get to where we are now?
No, what black feminism is about, that's all I've ever called myself, is a black feminist, putting my feminism into the context of my community. Yes, Ishmael, let me finish this time.
I read your book.
But the thing is that what black feminism is about that woman trying to raise her children on welfare in Harlem and not having that work respected enough that she gets enough money to do it. It's our sisters who are in the SROs right now, you know, surrounded by rats and drugs, et cetera, et cetera. It's about a black woman who can't walk down the street in safety. I lived in Boston for 9 years. In 1979, 12 black women were murdered in a 4-month period in Boston. I lived in Roxbury. That is a black community in Boston. What did it mean to me and to every black female and black man in Boston that 12 black women were murdered precipitously during that period? That's what black feminism is about, to try to explain that.
I'll tell you what, Jet Magazine, which I read every week.
I do too.
And which is very reliable, published some Justice Department statistics that show that more black men are being killed by women than the other way around. Now, when I say that, the feminists get emotional. They say, well, that's not true. It must have been because of self-defense. But I think that men should stop killing women.
They should stop killing each other.
Women should stop killing men.
And black men should stop killing each other, too.
One should not be singled out as the repository of all evil in the world. And I think we agree on that.
Yes. What I'd like to say is that I'm not sure if black feminists are being unfair to the black male by saying what they're saying. And I'm not sure if we should expect them to pull any punches. But I'd like to say is that I hope that black males aren't expected to pull any punches when it comes to criticism of women. And that black males, when we start to say and lay out what we feel is some problems with some of the black women, that we are not kept from being published, or we can't find any producers and directors to do our work. And I think that if we can get to that stage, we'll have a true dialogue. I think it has been a little one-sided up to now, and I'm kind of tired of being called a chauvinist or insecure, etc., whenever I have a few criticisms. So I think that if we can really honestly look at each other, listen to the criticism, I think we'll really get a lot further than we are now.
Are you saying that the black feminist can get published if she criticized the black male, but the black male cannot get published if he criticized the black female?
Well, I'd be guessing because I'm not a writer who's going to a publisher to try to get something published.
No, that's not what you just said.
Well, I kind of get the feeling that it's a little bit more difficult if you're a black male trying to get something published. I think it's in vogue now to attack black males.
And when I started teaching black women writers in 1973, one of the first courses in the country on black women's literature, half the books that I needed to use, Their Eyes Were Watching God and Peachtree's The Street, etc., they were consistently out of print. I never knew, I never knew, you know, what I would be able to use semester to semester until, you know, I walked into the classroom and I had the notes from the bookstore say, all of these are out of print, change your syllabus midstream. And the thing is that, like, the situation that we see now of black women writers getting some visibility, that's a very new situation. That's a situation of, like, say, the last 5 or 6 years. And a lot of the books have been done by independent presses and also by university presses.
Zora Hurston had enough difficulty alive than for the feminists to drag her up and make her into a symbol. And Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Watching God, which was in print in the 1960s, incidentally. By
but it went out of print in the early 70s.
The introduction was written by the late Larry Neal.
Right, I remember that edition. But the thing is, I'm saying in the early 70s, it was not
Zora Neale Hurston was not a joiner. She was an individualist. She wrote a lot of essays about leave me alone, I'm in my thing, and I don't join any groups, anything like that. They made this woman into some kind of feminist symbol, cynically made her into a feminist symbol, and in Their Eyes Were Watching God, the women can just be just as cruel as the men. And I think that's more closer to human reality than these things where these positions where you say the men are all evil and the women are all good.
But the thing is, the cruelty of human beings was not what was at issue in that novel. What was at issue in that novel was the main character, Janie Crawford, going to have any autonomy? That's what was at issue in the novel, and that was a major focus of the novel. So the meanness of individuals, you know.
Miss Smith, what do you see? What is at stake between black men and black women?
I think the future of the race, probably. I think this is a very serious kind of, this is not the way to be having this dialogue, you know, on national TV, you know, in a debate format. But the thing is that it's a very serious situation, you know, that is coming to light because of the work of black women and black feminists. We're saying, look, there's something wrong here. When I was growing up in the 1950s and reading the black newspaper in Cleveland, Ohio, I would read about almost every week a black woman being murdered. And the thing is, like, I thought, my God, I'm going to be 20 in the 1960s. Is this what, you know, waits for me? Okay. And the thing is that finally, instead of pretending as if that's not happening, we say, hey, it's happening. We want to change it. You said you were changing. Like, the only way change is going to happen is by articulating what needs to happen.
We all should change. There's enough opportunity for everybody to change. But I think you look at statistics, the chances of being murdered if you are a black woman is 1 in 181.
Right.
Chance of being murdered if you're a black man is 1 in 21.
Right. You
so we have an epidemic. We have an epidemic where everybody is murdering us. We're murdering each other. The whites are murdering us. The women are murdering us. And I think if we could turn ourselves into whooping cranes, maybe there'd be some sympathy for us as an extinct species, or near extinct species.
Well, the thing is, I'm not for the murder of black men because I'm a black person.
Okay, but you seem to portray it as being a one-sided thing.
No, it's not one-sided, but there is by definition a violence against women, you know, phenomenon, not just in this country, but globally.
Okay.
There is something called violence against women. It takes many forms. And that's what I think
back to the
needs
point
to be
about Steven Spielberg did say that the color purple phenomena, which is, I guess they're going to have color purple T-shirts and things, and a color purple World's Fair, was begun by white women. He said the appeal of that movie was for white women, and that he wanted to broaden the appeal. And so I say in the editing and publishing industry is controlled by white women, and if you're a black woman, it's easy to get published nowadays.
And speaking of editing, we're out of time, and thank our guests, ladies and gentlemen, for great.
Tony Brown Productions produces this program and is solely responsible for its content.